Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the King Island Ordinary Council meeting for the month of September 2024. For the record, today's date is Tuesday, the 17th of September 2024. I call the meeting to order and declare the meeting open at 4:03 p.m. Usual housekeeping applies. Could everyone please ensure that their mobile phones are turned off or put on silent so that we are not interrupted? Thank you. Item 1, as always, is qualified advice. Pursuant to Section 65 of the Local Government Act of the State of Tasmania, 1993, qualified advice has been received to fully prepare the agenda for this afternoon. Across to item 2, attendance and apologies. I welcome all councillors and staff in attendance. Just to confirm our councillor numbers, we have 2 apologies for tonight. Councillor Green and Councillor Healy are unable to make it. So with the councillors present, just to confirm our quorum numbers, we are 6 of 9 for our council quorum, so we are good to go. We are good to transact council business. Staff attendance, King Island staff are here as required. Marty, you hear us loud and clear? Over, just confirming. Okay. Yeah, you've just frozen up, Marty, if you can still hear us, but we'll continue in anticipation that you'll rejoin us shortly. Do we have any staff apologies for tonight? Media attendance. Proceedings are being recorded tonight as per normal business, and there will also be a little bit of experimentation tonight with some of the live recordings, just for your information, with a view to try and continue to improve the quality of what's available to our constituents as far as our recording goes. Marty, are you back with us? Public attendance. On behalf of King Island Council, I welcome all interested constituents that are here with us this afternoon and those who will listen to the recording. For the opening statement, will everyone please stand? Councillors, to begin this meeting, I ask you to stand in silence to pray or reflect on our responsibilities to the people of King Island. We begin today by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which we meet today and pay our respects to their elders past and present. We extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. Thank you. Please resume your seats. On behalf of the council, I'd like to welcome Malcolm Lewis, who's still our relatively new Manager Finance, with us in person today. Malcolm, great to have you as part of the King Island Council team, and good to have you here in person today. I would also like to welcome Jason Pearce. He's our new Ranger and Compliance Officer. So Jason, I'd like to welcome you to the meeting tonight and also welcome you to the King Island Council team. Great to have you with us. Item 3 is presentations. There are nil. Item 4 is public question time. As always, if a constituent in our gallery wishes to ask a question or questions without notice, we will allow a maximum of 15 minutes of public question time. Shirley, that's at this stage, that is you. Do you have a question, ma'am, that you would like to ask the council? No. Okay, no worries. We'll move on to item 5, declaration of interests. Are there any declaration of interests for the ordinary meeting agenda tonight? None have been received. Okay, we'll move on. Item 6, there are no questions on notice. Item 7, questions without notice. Does any councillor have a question without notice?
Yes, I have.
Deputy Mayor?
I would like to move that the council approve the King Island Chamber of Commerce request for funding of $5,454.54 ex-GST in support of a small business month of 2024 as one-off grant to be funded by council approved budgeting and sponsorship financing.
We just checked there are no questions.
Yeah. There weren't any.
Yeah, okay, no worries. All right, so just confirming there are no questions without notice from other councillors before we move on to item 8.
Sorry.
Okay, that's all right. I just confirming no questions without notice from councillors. Otherwise, no worries. We'll move on to item 8. So, Deputy Mayor, thank you. Take that as moved. There, an item 8 is small business month sponsorship resulting from a request received from our Chamber of Commerce. The Deputy Mayor has moved this notice of motion or motion with notice. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cook has seconded. Thank you. Deputy Mayor, would you like to talk to us?
I'd just like to add that the advertising go on the local radio as well to help. I commend the Chamber of Commerce for putting this forward because it's whenever we definitely needed this with the cheese factory closing. It's put forward so we're on everybody working together, bringing government officials over.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And just to confirm that the Chamber of Commerce have been organising for a while, running the conduct of a small business month. As far as we know, it's going ahead to be next month, October 2024, here on King Island. There's a lot involved in that. We certainly see it as a worthy activity and event at a time when the island needs it. Would anybody else like to speak to the motion? Councillor.
Yeah, Mayor, I've got a question. I've been involved in last year's and I thoroughly enjoyed and benefited from it. I'm just interested in just the fact this event's been going on for a few years. How's it been funded in previous years? Because I don't recollect a motion of this nature coming to council previously.
I happen to know that last year Curdo received funding through Business Tasmania as part of their small business strategy program, and the initial small business month that was done in 2021 was funded through a COVID response grant. State government isn't doing any of those grants this year, so the Chamber of Commerce started trying to go solo, but there are just some costs that come in, and in light, as explained in the motion and in my previous conversations with Heidi as the president of the Chamber, they want to be able to do things at a level that they can't do without funding.
And due to the current economic headwinds that all of us are experiencing, there just appears to be not as many sponsors this year willing and able to, with the wherewithal, to support this event than there has been in recent previous years, and so that's a consideration as well. Councillor Laidlaw.
No, I just wanted to commend and say the importance of Small Business Month, particularly as our small businesses are really quite suffering. So I'm hoping that they'll be able to take advantage of some of the sessions and things that happen.
Yes, and as we've all anecdotally discussed, I know with many of our constituents, we've all seen happen before us. We have had a slow winter season, in King Island this year around for a range of reasons, and hopefully this might be, help get us into get the island active again and up and going into spring and summer. Councillor Bowden.
Yeah, I'd like to speak to the motion and support it, and I think we should write a letter to the state government advising what we're doing and give them the opportunity to make significant contribution as well, in addition.
Okay. The event, as mentioned, is still, as far as we're aware, planned for next month. So there's only a few weeks out until the event kicks off, and so obviously this funding tonight will straight away be put to work to get this event up and running and off the ground. So, any further comments then or discussion, Councillor Laidlaw?
Just to add to Councillor Bowden's discussion, I think this should be part of our campaign to get more happening within that environment and advocating state government for some funds, particularly for our small business sector. Funds, programs have been quite directed at our farmers, but our small business sector is quite significantly struggling at this point in time. So one of the things I did was actually canvass the Premier for more funding towards small business opportunities.
Thank you, Councillor Laidlaw. The motion's been moved and seconded. Before we go to a vote, I'll just confirm the wording that's up there, just so we're all crystal clear on what we're voting on. The council approved the King Island Chamber of Commerce request for funding of $5,454.54, excluding GST, in support of Small Business Month 2024 as a one-off grant to be funded from council's approved budget for sponsorship, financial and in kind this financial year.
And there's another addition now. We write to the letter.
Yes, okay. You want to cut that in? Can you cut that in, or is that...
Did Councillor Bowden move that, or just...
I'm happy to do so if you want to do it.
I'm happy to add that to the motion.
You're happy to accept that slight amendment, or...
Yeah, amendment. Yeah.
Slight improvement?
Slight improvement. Yeah.
Addition.
All right, we'll just we'll cut that in, and we'll just make sure we're happy with the wording and what we're voting on. So $5,454.54, excluding GST, in support of Small Business Month 2024 as a one-off grant to be funded from council's approved budget for sponsorship, financial and in kind, and we're to write a letter to the state government to give them the opportunity to assist and financially support also.
Give them the opportunity or request.
Yeah, it will be a request, won't it? So let's put.
They always have the opportunity.
Yeah, and it will be essentially a last opportunity request. Okay. All right, everyone, happy with that? Happy with what we're voting on? Right, we'll go to a vote now. All those in favour for the motion? Carried unanimously. Over to item 9, confirmation of the previous minutes. Our last ordinary council meeting was last month, Tuesday the 20th of August. Those minutes have been distributed. Any issues or concerns with those minutes that have previously been discussed? Would someone like to move that we accept those minutes? Deputy Mayor has moved. Councillor Laidler has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Over the page, item 10.1 is the Mayor's Diary, my diary for last month, August 2024. There's nothing I particularly want to highlight for last month, but I'm happy to answer any questions or discussion. If any councillor has anything they'd like to raise, I'll give you a minute to do so. Councillor Laidler.
Yes, just the what was the main takeaway from the LGAT convention, even though it was sort of overridden by other events that happened. Is there any?
Through the Mayor, we'll be preparing a report for the workshop. Okay. Yep.
The LGAT convention was the first week of September, so obviously this is August's calendar, so the last day of August there you can see the final preparation. It was a good convention. It was great that 4 of us were represented, and we're currently doing up a maximum two-page summary from the main takeaways from LGAT 2 weeks ago, and that'll be sent out to council shortly. Unfortunately, the King Island Dairy situation came along in between, and we've been dealing with that as our main effort and main priority at the moment, so we didn't get that LGAT debrief out as quickly and as promptly as we normally otherwise would. Any other questions then or discussions relating to my diary? Would somebody like to move that the Mayor's diary be received and noted? Deputy Mayor has moved. Thank you. Councillor Cook has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Across to item 11.1, the financial report for August 2024. I again welcome Malcolm Lewis in person with us today. Malcolm, great to have you as part of the council team. It might be a few catch-up questions this evening, so we'll take our time to go through. The first question is actually from me. It's mentioned in there on page 16 that our federal assistant grants, or our federal assistant grant appropriation was received at the very end of last financial year for this financial year. But I've heard from other councils around the country that they're now receiving their federal assistant grants in quarterly payments. So I just wanted to confirm, have we got ours paid up front and will it continue to be paid up front? Or does the federal government appear to be switching to a quarterly payment system now for federal assistance grants?
We get to, yeah, Mr Mayor, we have the majority of that, so the total federal assistance grant for this year, for next year, well, for current year, is 2.4 million to 407. We've received most of that in advance in the prior year. So there will be a quarterly payment of a remainder, because when the in-advance payment was made, the Federal Assistance Commission hadn't finalised, and via the state, had not finalised the actual grant amount. So there was a top-up amount of $375,000. So it was an estimate that was paid in advance. There's an additional $375,000 that'll be received in quarterly, and that'll be received in quarterly. So that's about what, $92,000, $93,000 per quarter for the 4 quarters. I think it's August, November, February and May, but most of it's been received in advance.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, that's good to know. Yeah, almost all of it paid up front, but a residual amount still to be paid quarterly to us. Okay, excellent. That's good to know. Thank you. Any questions then from councillors or discussions related to the report? We'll work our way through, take our time. And a reminder of the financial tables that are attached, pages 20 to 26. We'll take our time to go through as required. Councillor Allen.
Thanks, Mayor. My question relates to the rates debtors. And just looking at the table, I struggled to distinguish between the debts that relate to this financial year and the debts that relate to the previous financial year and going back in time. How easy it is to get a breakdown to understand what debts we are carrying from previous financial years?
In terms of, through you, Mr Mayor, that should be achievable, Councillor. So you're right, at the moment the amount that's showing is what, because the rate notices have only been recently issued, so it's current year and what's referred to as arrears. So we can certainly split out to the current year and the arrears amount in terms of rates. That's certainly achievable.
Councillor Allen, you're referring mainly to the table on page 26? That summary there, or the other?
No, well, just both the text on page 19 and the table on page 26. It's just, I I'm just interested in understanding the debt that we are carrying from previous financial years.
So for the most part, correct me if I'm wrong, but obviously some ratepayers have paid the full amount in advance for the whole financial year. Others will have only paid instalment one by now. So in many cases, we may only have received 1/3, at a guess, 1/3 of our rates due for this financial year so far, with 2/3 remaining.
That's correct. And of course, remember, there is an arrears component, but it's unpaid from the prior year, as the council alluded to. But if council would like that separated out, that's achievable.
We are very reasonable, and we understand at the moment there are economic headwinds and issues afflicting our ratepayers and constituents out there. Any of our constituents, for whatever reason, if they enter financial hardship and they're unable to make a rates instalment, will pay their rates at a given time, to come and talk to the council, and we'll try and find a reasonable way by which we can lean forward and help overcome that issue. But certainly it's something we'll need to watch with the current challenges at hand. And I remind again, not only us as a council, but all our constituents that are listening, that we only put our rates and fees and charges up by 3.74% this financial year, and we were the second lowest council in Tasmania putting up our fees, rates and charges. And so again, as a council, we've leaned forward as much as we can in tough times. I know it's important that everyone takes that into consideration as well. And we are very forward-leaning again with our instalment payments as a council. Other councils around Australia don't have the arrangement that we do, so we take on an additional administrative overhead, receiving 4 instalment payments from our constituents that aren't charged extra as a result of that. So again, we're very forward-leaning in that area as well. So, Councillor Bowden.
A couple of questions. Firstly, in regard to airport operations, and secondly, in regard to waste management, both of which are showing projected budget deficits that are quite large by the end of the year. Are they budgeted for, or how are we going to meet the deficits of that size that are projected, which are quite substantial?
Okay. Through you, Mr Mayor, yes, that's correct, Council. So the airport operations budget for 498,000 for the full year. At the moment, the year to date for 2 months is only 32,000, but so the airport, on the basis of the budget that Council adopted, of a 24-25 budget, it's effectively a subsidy of $500,000 to operate the airport. That is the shortfall, the difference between the income of 600,000 and the proposed expenditure of 1.1 million. So that's the situation in the airport. And I think, Councillor, your second question in relation to the waste. The waste is also budgeted as a deficit, or effectively as subsidised, right, from the ratepayers of 392,000. So for the full year, and this was a component of the adopted budget, it's $1 million of budgeted income, less almost $1.4 million of budget expenditure to get to almost 400,000. Now, the year-to-date tracking, that's tracking at about line ball. It's about a break-even position, but expect that the expenditure is going to ramp up and exceed the income over the remaining 10 months of a financial year, based on current trends.
Just through the Mayor.
Yes.
Just to expand on what Mr Lewis has said, just on the airport, that figure is also including depreciation of the asset.
Oh, yes. Okay. Yes, exactly right. So it does take account, there's a significant part of that, the depreciation of that is 227. So really, excluding on a cash basis, Mr Mayor, on a cash basis, the deficit would be halved. So it'd be about 250,000. So half of that deficit is purely on depreciation, which is the expected, deterioration and the need for replacement of the infrastructure assets at the airport.
Yes, indeed. Any further questions then, or discussion related to the financial report? Councillor Cook.
Yeah, page 17, internal. It says there is a variance from actual 16k and a budget 121k variance is mainly due to shortfalls in gravel production. Were we on time restraints for crushing that gravel, and if so, are we short of gravel and have we crushed it outside the time?
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, earlier in the year we had prepared and crushed all the gravel we were entitled or we'd planned for, and we were able to under the EPA permits that have been given to us, and that was stockpiled, ready for use. Has that situation changed?
Through you, Mr Mayor. I believe so. There was during the month of August, there was no production, so there's no activity for the month of August. However, I just understand from the team that there's more activity that's occurred during September, so expect that position will change. But notwithstanding the fact that overall the whole operation of a quarry is meant to be a break-even over the 12 months, so it's budgeted for a break-even position. Okay, so but you'll see there's no activity shown in the month of so on that table that's on the page, is it page 22? You'll see for the quarry there's no. So I'm reading from the table on page 22. The quarries there's no activity on the income statement for the month of August, but overall for the 12 months, the quarry's operations is meant to be a break-even position. I believe there's production that's occurring this month that will be reported in the September financial report.
All right, any final questions and or discussions? Would somebody like to move that the financial report be received and noted? Councillor Bowden has moved. A seconder? Councillor Layla has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Across to page 27. Item 12.1 is the operations report for August. Just mindful that our works manager position is now vacant on the council. Recruiting action has commenced to again fill that critical vacancy. So that's a work in progress at the moment, and so the deputy GM at the moment is going to stand in for this report and field any questions or issues. So I'll go through this. Any questions, Councillor Layla?
Yes, I just had a question in regards to planning of our roads and bridges and footpaths. Just for the public, that we do planning in regards to what we're going to work on?
Yes, through the Mayor, yes, we have a schedule of the resheeting and the grading of gravel roads. That's all documented in terms of the works plan. We've been through all that with the team, and that is absolutely documented and all planned forward.
Councillor Layla, again.
And just, did we have significant impact with this severe weather?
Through the Mayor, yes, although the major impact was in September, so you'll be reading about that next month, but absolutely there was all sorts of, again, trees over roads, etc., which the crews responded to very quickly. So, we acknowledge the work that the crews did all hours of the day and night to make sure that our community was safe. So, but the majority of that happened in September.
Yeah, we've certainly all noticed quite a bit of debris from the storm, although it could have been worse. It's in spite of how strong the winds were, the debris that was levelled around the island actually wasn't too bad from what we've seen in the past. But a lot of potholes have again opened up, some of them familiar potholes that typically open up this time of the year, and also the verges, the side of the road, the verges of the growth on the verges of the side of the road has started to go accelerate again, and I noticed that the tractor with the new, relatively new cutting arm that the council procured in recent years is out at the moment slashing verges, so that has commenced and will continue no doubt over the months ahead. Our Roads and Bridges Working Group is scheduled for next week, our next Roads and Bridges Working Group. So we'll again continue to, as far as we that are involved in that working group, will continue to keep a close eye on the council's priority works list at the moment and what they're doing, etc., and get an update on all these things. Any questions then relating to gravel crushing? I just note that on page 29. Just further from the question just before. All right, any further discussion or questions? Somebody like to move that the operations report for August be received and noted? Deputy Mayor has moved. Over seconder. Councillor Cook has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Over the page, Item 12.2, Airport Services Report for August. Mindful also the airport manager position unfortunately is again vacant. Recruiting action has also recommenced for that to fill that critical vacancy and is a work in progress. So at the moment the General Manager is carrying this report item, so just bear that in mind. It's good to see that aircraft movements are again starting to increase again, heading into what we hope will be spring and busy spring and summer. And Councillor Cook.
Yes, in regards to Rex, have we had any interruptions to services with Rex, or have they managed to maintain services for us?
To the best of my knowledge, also having flown them quite a few times in the past 2 months, Rex continue their twice daily services to King Island, the Tullamarine to King Island and return direct service, and also the milk run that goes down through Burnie Wynyard and comes back to King Island and goes the other way. So those two daily Rex services continue uninterrupted since Rex entered administration. They continue to be reasonably well trafficked as far as PAX numbers and whatever else is concerned. There have been a few late flights, flights that have been delayed for whatever reason. Often the flight is delayed and the passengers get notified that there is a new delayed timing for the flight, but they make up a bit of time on their way through Wynyard, and often it doesn't end up as late for bound passengers going from King Island to Melbourne. So I'm not aware of any outright flight cancellations. I'm aware of a few delays, and I've been on those myself, but they still seem to make up time, and in the end the delay doesn't actually work out too bad. And we are, because Rex in administration owes us unpaid landing fees, we're a creditor of Rex. So we have voting rights in the creditors meeting to decide essentially on the fate of what will be proposed and what may happen to Rex Airlines in the future. We attended our first creditors meeting a few months back, and we believe the next one is in November, to be confirmed. So we'll keep everyone informed of that. But otherwise, I'm not aware of any other significant developments involving Rex that I can report on this forum. GM, are you?
It's operation as usual.
Yeah, business as usual, and the federal funding or the federal government backing or financially supporting or guaranteeing forward bookings for Rex, as we see as a good thing. So we again encourage all King Islanders to continue to book Rex with confidence, knowing that the federal government has guaranteed those forward bookings, and continue to fly Rex with confidence, knowing that that's backed up and shored up, and we'll continue to fly and use Rex ourselves as a council wherever possible. So that's a situation as it currently stands. Councillor Cook. Councillor Bowden.
Just for clarification, Mayor, does the passenger guarantee on their bookings from the federal government extend to the fees owed to council?
No, not to my knowledge. It's only the amount that an individual will purchase a ticket with, and for whatever reason, if that ticket can't be delivered or fulfilled, if Rex isn't able to deliver that service for whatever reason, as far as what may materialise with their administration process and everything else, then the federal government will refund that ticket amount. So that's the extent of federal government funding at this stage. So that gives travellers confidence to book, knowing that whatever may happen to Rex Airlines, their money will always still be good, or will be at least refunded to them if the service isn't able to be provided. So that's the extent of the guarantee as far as I'm aware. However, that the ticket amounts and the fee amounts, as we know, certainly includes a small percentage in there that ultimately is expected to come through us for landing fees and other fees and services that we're owed as a council for providing our airport services. And so we will keep a close eye on the unpaid landing fees and other fees that Rex owes us, mindful that those passenger fees include that amount as a small percentage. And so we need to keep the pressure on and keep an eye ourselves as a creditor to make sure that the money is owed to us, and tickets that continue to be purchased with an expectation of paying us a small part of that fee for airport services makes its way through to us like it should. But this is a developing situation, and we'll keep you informed as best we can. Any other discussion or comments, Councillor Allen?
Yeah, I do understand that two different situations where the debt incurred pre administration will be something that will be resolved in the course of time. I'm more interested in the landing fees that are incurred since they've been in administration. What's the situation with those? Are they just paid on the... Do we expect them to be paid on the normal, regular basis?
Yeah, that's a good and important delineation, which I guess I've talked us into, and your question has nailed down. Are we in a position to examine that or come up with a
Well, through the Mayor,
differentiation?
My last inquiry, they were on time with their payment. So, but that was a few weeks ago, so I need to get back to councillors on that.
Thank you. I was just wary that, that we won't be accumulating a larger and larger and larger debt as time goes on. My second question, Mayor, relates to the data on the total monthly landings, and I just note that when you compare August 23 to August 24, there appears to be close to a 15% decrease in the number of landings there. I'm just interested if there's an explanation of that. Is it the charters? Is it the RPTs? Is that an indication of trends that are going to happen with our...
Well, through the Mayor, as the Mayor mentioned, Rex are still flying as normal. I think Sharp might have cut back slightly during the winter months.
Yeah, they have. They've gone to their winter schedule, which is reduced.
And I suspect that with the weather being as it is, some of the charter flights might have dropped off. But I'll get back to council with the breakdown.
I don't have the evidence available to back this up, but my suspicion, and perhaps most of you would agree, that given the slow winter season we've just had, there just weren't as many charters coming through across the winter months and that have in previous years, and the numbers appear to be reflected there. All right, no further questions or discussion. Would somebody like to move that the Airport Services report for August be received and noted? Councillor Cook has moved. Over seconder. Councillor Bowden has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Over the page. Item 13.1, the Community and Social Development Report. The two reports combined into one. Yeah, community. Yeah, Councillor Allen.
Yeah, Mayor, I got a couple of questions. Firstly, I'm just delighted to see a mention of a youth event. I ran for council in 2018 and banged on about the absence of anything for the youth, so I'm delighted to see something happen. I'm just interested in how that fits in with the youth strategy and what youth strategy we're aiming to achieve with those. If that's a more detailed explanation that needs an item on workshop, then I'm happy to wait to a workshop for an explanation of youth strategy.
Yeah, good question, Councillor Allen. Through you, GM. Can AJ elaborate any more on that?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As for the youth strategy, I think that is a huge body of work that should probably be looked at as a whole of what's in the annual plan of the wellbeing for the island, the overall wellbeing plan, and whether it should fall under there as well. So it needs to be teased out in more detail. This is a start through the SPIN group to gather evidence and momentum so we can see what the youth actually want to do.
Thank you very much. My second question, Mayor, just relates to the bottom of page 33, the meeting with the people up at the good old Rikara Top Shop there, and I'm just interested in the conclusions of the discussion, and sort of relating to more inclusive art culture, increasing local content and diversification of art forms. Are those recommendations that are coming from that group, are those recommendations related to the actual Rikara Top Shop itself, wanting to see more local things at that top shop, or is it relating to arts in general or something else?
Thank you both. So this meeting, as I said, was originally supposed to be set up with the Top Shop with only 2 people we thought were attending. It was great to see 15 community members there. So it was a very informal meeting. It was more an information gathering to find out what this group were really after in the community and how they wanted to move forward. So there is a plan to meet again to see if that's whether they were just voicing their opinion or to solidify a plan of action of where they want to go. But it was about the commencement of starting to bring the art and culture community back together, because there has been a split over the last couple of years between fine art and the other cultural activities. So that was the start of building those relationships.
And basically, their ideas and recommendations refer to King Island art in general, not to specifics of the good old Top Shop up there.
That's correct.
Yeah, thank you.
I note the successful opening of the exhibit at the airport recently too. That's glossing the social pages. I saw. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make it myself, but I sent my family along as my delegates. I think I was cleaning up storm damage actually, if I recall correctly. But sorry I missed it. But that's great, and hopefully again heading into spring and summer we'll have another brilliant season in our gallery with enlightening exhibits and freshen things up and bring not only the tourists in but also bring us locals back as well to see those fresh exhibits. Any more questions then or discussions? Somebody like to move that the Community Development Report be received and noted? Councillor Layla has moved. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Cook has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Across to item 14.1, Growth and Strategy Report for August. Some of this was discussed in workshop last week. I note that it's fantastic to see visible progress of both the hub and the courts out there at the moment. The new fences around the courts are going up. They look great. So that's the commencement of that refurbishment, which is brilliant. And the huge slab for the hub was poured and is now in place. And hopefully the whole structure will go up soon. But it's just good for all of us, I know, having been a work in progress for a long time, with many challenges and hurdles along the way. It's good to finally see the things being built in front of us. I know our ratepayers and constituents will be equally happy with that. Councillor Layla.
Yes, so the Freight Equalisation Scheme review is very high on everyone's list at the moment, and I was wondering if it would be possible to share what the key points are that Council's looking at.
Absolutely. Freight Equalisation Scheme is being reviewed at the moment. It's a Senate inquiry into the chaired by Senator. Remind me of her name. Sorry. Yeah. Anyway, Tasmanian senators. Tasmanian senators are chairing, deputy chairing the federal Senate review into the Freight Equalisation Scheme. Which is great, and they have significant familiarity with the issues and problems and outdated nature of the Freight Equalisation Scheme. And also recently, as was highlighted, whilst we were in Canberra for ALGA a few months ago, myself and the Mayor of Flinders Island were able to go and see Senator Brown and Senator Urquhart and be the vanguard for what at the time we thought would be a Freight Equalisation Scheme just for us, as in the Bass Strait Islands. No sooner had we been given the undertakings for a review for us than the Senate inquiry got over the line as well for a review of the Freight Equalisation Scheme for all of Tasmania, incorporating King Island and Flinders Island. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. We'll take that as our work as a vanguard has got the review through for the whole state, which is great, but that means it's probably going to take longer, and we've got to make sure that we don't fall through the cracks. Because obviously issues and shortcomings with the outdated and obsolete Freight Equalisation Scheme expose us to a heck of a lot more than they do Tasmania proper. So moving ahead and moving forward, our aspirations for the Freight Equalisation Scheme are not only to include shipping in a future updated scheme, but also aviation. Aviation being our Highway 1 and shipping being our Highway 2. Ideally, we would like universal application of the Freight Equalisation Scheme to apply to everything that comes and goes from King Island. Certainly that'll be our start point for consideration and negotiation, because we know everything coming in, the disproportionate freight costs and the escalated freight costs in recent years have increased and impacted costs of living here on King Island. So universal application to everything that is shipped on and off King Island is ideally what we'd like to see, but certainly that'll be the start point for our aspirations and negotiations, and go from there. We would like to see automatic application of the Freight Equalisation Scheme to all freight, so that those who move something in one direction or another don't have to apply for it retrospectively, with what often looks like a small tax return is often the paperwork involved. I've done it myself and I've seen it myself. So we want it to be administratively streamlined and improved, and maybe have immediate application to discount the freight fees from the get-go as part of quoting and hiring the freight, rather than doing each individual client doing it retrospectively afterwards. So that's another aspect that we're looking on. Again, we wanted to, let me think off the top of my head, General Manager, have I missed anything?
I think that's right.
They're the main
Ms.
pillars.
Thomas might want to say something.
Helen, you're welcome to add anything I've missed.
One more. You've done much better than me, Mayor, in remembering what they were. I've actually just found the email that I sent to councillors yesterday to check what I'd said. The fifth one was that the subsidy be benchmarked against an appropriate level. And my apologies to councillors for not getting them that information promptly after the last workshop.
And the formulation's contemporised to the current shipping solutions, applying Bass rate to what it currently costs. The formulation's recalculated, contemporised, all the numbers updated. So it really makes a difference and really gives a discount to freight going in whichever direction. It helps our bottom line here on King Island, helps the viability of our businesses, helps cost of living, supermarket shelf, etc., etc. So that's where we're going. Unfortunately, the recent situation with King Island Dairy and other things and the short time frame for this committee, Senate committee hearing, mean that we only have a short amount of time until submissions close, or the window for submissions to be submitted closes. But we've been given an undertaking that the inquiry will visit King Island and not only hear from us to back up our own submission as a council, but more importantly hear from our constituents and small business and shipping organisations and everyone involved who wants to contribute and illustrate the current shortcomings of the freight equalisation scheme and the impact on King Island. So if for whatever reason the review aren't able to make it to King Island, then we will. I would envisage leading a team to Canberra or wherever to go in front of the Senate hearing and plead our case and cause, backed up by subject matter experts who know the numbers and can talk through the technical detail. So we'll see how this plays out, and we'll keep everyone informed as to dates we would like them, or we expect them to visit, and we hope they visit those dates, and we'll go from there. And once we have finalised our council submission, which we hope to do pretty much at the end of this week, don't we? We're going to quickly share that with councillors, aren't we? Prior to fine tune it, prior to sending it off and submitting it ourselves.
Yeah. The deadline is the 24th of September. So we'll get it to councillors before the weekend, before we submit by the deadline.
All right, Councillor Allen.
Mayor, are you worried that now it's a statewide review of this scheme, that the important issues for both Flinders and King Island will sort of get swallowed up by all the issues that will come out from statewide? Are you worried that we're just going to get pushed aside and gain very little out of this, and because we're just a couple small voices, we're going to be ignored?
I had a similar thought, but it means that we have to take a slightly different tack to the way we approach this, and we have to make sure that we don't slip through the cracks and we're not missed out, or we're not forgotten about by other bigger issues associated with Tasmania itself. But we'll make that slight course alteration ourselves and with our approach. But I think certainly when I was in Canberra with the Mayor of Flinders Island, kind of being the vanguard to get this review up and over the line, there's significant solidarity all across Tasmania to see this updated and contemporised and improved. The scheme is way obsolete. It's way outdated for a review. It hasn't kept pace with the modern shipping logistics and arrangements and the suboptimal shipping service that currently applies King Island, as we know too well. So it's a risk, but provided we keep an eye on it and we've identified that risk straight away, we'll make sure we'll do our best to make sure we don't slip through the cracks.
Yeah, because no worries, review the scheme and fix it will probably mean more money, and that more money spread across the whole state will make a minor impact on the economy of the state. But use that same money on the Bass Strait Islands, it is an absolute generational game changer. And it can make a major impact on both these little islands. So I'd really hate us to get swallowed up with the with the general thing. I've spent a fair career banging on about minorities, so we've got a big task, but.
Oh, I totally agree, Councillor Allen. And to my knowledge, we're the only ones so far that have raised the possible inclusion of aviation, given the criticality of aviation for logistically supplying King Island. We know that not only passengers, of course, can only come and go from King Island by aircraft, but aviation brings us the mail, it brings us newspapers, it brings us couried items and freight, it brings us perishable foods, it exports seafood, it does a whole lot of other things. So it would be good if the freight equalisation scheme could also apply to aviation or aviation cargo that we critically rely on here, as well as Flinders Island. So that's what we're shooting for.
Excellent. I just got another question there. Coincidentally, I was listening to an audio book this morning going through the history of Australia's migration. Intriguing. And I just see 3.4.7, which is discuss the potential of designated migration area agreement. I'm just interested in understanding how that works.
Short answer is I'm not fully across the detail. It was pitched to me as a way that we could address some of the definite gaps in employment on the island. So we have more vacancies than bodies available to fill them, and a number of barriers through the normal skilled migrant visa program to fill those. So what you will see around the island is the same foreigner, person with an accent like mine, moving from one business to another as their visa requirements ask them to move to a different business. It can only have employment for a certain period of time on a holiday visa, a working holiday visa. And so what happens is they go to all of the businesses that they can, and then they have to leave the island because they can no longer work here because of the conditions on their visa. So the idea of the Dharma is that we could keep that person here in that role in any one of those businesses, and actually hold a person who wants to be on this island, is willing to work, wants to be here. So I am not going to get myself into the detail of how a Dharma works. I don't think I need to add migration agent to my list of skills on my CV, but I have raised it with Cradle Coast Authority as something for them to look into with their resources, and ask them to keep King Island in mind as they review that.
And also, I'm not xenophobic, so anyone with an accent's not a foreigner in my mind.
Certain categories of skilled migrants are obligated to work and live in country Australia under the auspices of their visa being approved, and we see that here on King Island with certainly nurses, as far as I'm aware, maybe some of our doctors as well, that locums that come through, and no doubt there are some other professions as well that might for a period of time live or temporarily work on King Island. Because it was an obligation of their skilled migrant or skilled worker visa. All right, so Councillor Cook.
Budget management, bottom of page 37. I see now that we have done away with a lookout on the top of the hub. Is there any need now for anyone to go up on top of the hub, and if so, do we need the access to the top of the hub?
So there will still be a need from time to time for people to get onto the roof of the hub for maintenance and the like, but no, there won't be a need for any public access. So the construction has been changed, that there won't be any kind of bridge onto the roof. If anybody does need to get there, they'll be doing it in high vis and climbing up a ladder.
Councillor Allen.
And just a follow-up question for that. I understand that, budgets are going to be trimmed, designs going to be trimmed back to fit budgets. That component you're mentioning, will it be able to be included later on with some kind of ease, or is this a fair bit of an adjustment to the engineering of the building?
It's not an adjustment to the engineering of the building, that's unchanged. Yep. It would be an adjustment to the engineering of the earth berm adjacent to the building. Yep. So if councillors cast their mind back, the idea was that we'd have the heap of earth, yep, and then a gap between the building and the earth berm, and that gabion wall that would hold it all up. What we're now going to have is a much shallower edge on that earth berm next to the building. So if we were to try and put a lookout on top of the hub with a bridge in the future, it would be a much longer bridge because it would have a greater span to cover. arguably still possible. The building can absolutely take it, yes. It would just be a longer and therefore more expensive bridge.
Or build the Gabion Wall.
Well, then you've got to re-engineer the rest of the earth berm and refill everything up to the Gabion Wall, if you see what I mean. So there'd be an additional expense on top of just what we've saved.
All right, thank you, Helen. Any more for any more? Somebody like to move that the Growth and Strategy Report for August 2024 be received and noted. Deputy Mayor has moved. Councillor Cook is seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Over the page to item 15.1, the General Manager's Report for August. Much of this has again been covered in our recent workshop. General Manager, at your discretion, if you'd like to hit any wave tops or plug anything in particular.
Well, thank you. Through the Mayor, I would just remind our community that the Tasmanian Electoral Commission are running a by-election. And again, just a reminder that in Tasmania now, I understand it's compulsory voting for local government. So we don't want anyone to be fined by the Tasmanian Electoral Commission, not by council. So just please be aware that we are in the process, albeit that it's more this current month, not past month, but it is in train, and we have 3 nominations. So please make sure that everyone puts their voting in so that there is not a repercussion in terms of having a nasty letter in the letterbox. So just to remind everyone that that's now in train. So voting starts, I think, about now. Yes. Okay. So please don't forget. It's all postal voting, so that makes it a bit easier. So please put your postal vote in so that the Electoral Commission can then do the counting and so forth.
Yes, it's just to go on from that, I commend the 3 candidate nominations that have stepped forward for our by-election for our 9th seat. It's particularly pleasing to see young members of our community stepping up to be considered for election. And as always, our voters and constituents deserve choice, so they've got choice this time around, which is an excellent outcome, and we wish them all the best. If the polls close on time and the winner is determined on time, they should be joining us for the ordinary council meeting next month, and we should have a full council again, which I know we'll all be happy to see. So I watch this space. I believe the candidates are being interviewed this week on radio and or in the newspaper, and obviously their photo and their short burst platform position will be in the candidate booklet that will be sent out with the voting ballots, like it was 2 years ago. So that's they're literally being received at the moment. So most, if not all of us, should have those ballots and those candidate booklets by the end of next week to then be able to send back before polls officially close through the mail system. Anything else, Jim?
No, I think that's all.
Okay.
Take it as read.
Any questions or discussion points for the GM? Councillor
No, I
Wagler?
just wanted to say it was very nice to meet Jason, our new ranger.
Great to have that position filled too.
Absolutely.
Lots of nervous. Well, there's already lots of nervous cats around. Now they'll be even more nervous. All right. Would somebody like to move that the General Manager's Report for August be received and noted? Councillor Layla has moved. Have a seconder. Councillor Cook has seconded. Thank you. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Over the page, item 15.2, council workshops. Our recent workshop was Tuesday last week. Tuesday last week was a big day for all of us and a long day. We covered lots of material. That was it. Anything else to add to that? Again, a few of those issues remain works in progress. No questions or discussion related to that. Would somebody like to move, therefore, that the council workshop report be received and noted? Deputy Mayor has moved. I have a seconder. Councillor Laidler has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Over the page again, item 15.3, information report for August. I just note on page 46 there that it's good to see building permits going ahead for residential housing, dwellings. Ideally, we'd like to see pages and pages of those in the future, and hopefully we will. If there's no questions related to page 46, we'll move into the actions list from page 47 onwards. Councillor Laidler.
I'd just like to comment in regards to the LGAT motions, and it was pleasing to see the work that you've done on those.
Yes, thanks to the GM. Those motions have been put up. They've been accepted by LGAT for the next LGAT general meeting, haven't they, which is in November?
Yes, they're registered.
Okay.
They're in the agenda.
Yeah. And having spoken to quite a few other councils and mayors, in particular backed up by Flinders Island, who passed a very similar motion to ours, backing up their desire to see that outcome for the same reasons as us and isolation the same as us. I'm pretty confident that it'll be ratified by LGAT and particularly other councils like the West Coast. They're quite isolated too, and a few others that have a similar concern. So I'm pretty sure we'll have the numbers to get that ratified, but we'll know for sure in November, and we'll be there in person to speak to that motion and to rally the numbers, garner the numbers if required.
So I didn't say that they're in regards to the leave of absence requirements for council.
Yes.
For the members of the listening public.
Indeed. We haven't yet heard back from the Tasmanian Planning Commission, have we? 8224 on page 51. Tasmanian Planning Scheme, draft local provision schedule. We haven't yet heard back from TPC. I take it after our hearings a while back. All right, so we should expect their response sometime late-ish October. Councillor Allen.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. Just a couple ones. The question I ask every week, but just for my memory and also for members of the community, just an update on the Memorial Park projects and the ratification of the boundaries and permits and all that other stuff that's holding us back. Just a bit of a progress report.
Sorry, I thought I was supposed to move up close to the mic.
Yeah, that's right.
So I did receive late yesterday a copy of the agreement which is offered with our solicitors. I haven't had a chance to have a close look at it, so we are getting closer.
Fantastic. So the process from here, just subject to whether that agreement needs any modifications, but if the agreement is pretty good, the next steps are just a few signatures and we're there?
They'll be signed off, and then the Surveyor General will issue instructions to our surveyor to actually go and survey it. The title to be issued.
All right. Oh, we're inching closer. Fantastic. All right. Thank you very much. My second question relates to page 57. It's to do with the CCTV, and it's got a terms of reference review determined prior to the 18-month deadline. It's got completed next to it. Has the terms of reference been completed?
No, not that part, no.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any other questions relating to the actions list? We'll move on to service requests. August was a quiet month for service requests, only 6, where the monthly average is typically about 20. And the backlog of service requests continues to go down. But after the gale force winds of recent weeks, we'll know there were lots of service requests would have resulted from that. So we'll expect next month's report to have probably a large number of service requests on it, hopefully which are being worked through as we speak. And the service request list we reviewed at the workshop last Tuesday as well, which was a timely update. All right, any further questions or discussion related to that report? Somebody like to move that the information report for August be received and noted? Councillor Layla has moved. Councillor Bowden has seconded. Thank you. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Across to item 15.4, the Deputy GM's report for August. Again, Deputy GM, at your discretion to talk to any specific items you'd like to or plug anything you'd like to.
Thank you, Mayor. As a result of the weather and recently the Telstra towers went down and we had no 000 for some time, so we've asked Telstra to do a debrief into that, so we're just still waiting for them to come back on that, but we'll be pushing that along.
Yeah, we spoke to some Telstra reps when we were at LGAT in Hobart a few weeks back, just after the big blow, and they said that they wanted 3 weeks to go away and look through in technical detail why the system had failed, why the backup power had failed, etc., etc., etc. And they had a lot to examine on that front, and they were going to back brief us when they had something to run with, as well as whatever technical fixes they were going to roll in, what technical improvements they were going to that would be required to make King Island's network more robust. But it was certainly concerning that the mobile phone network went down or has gone down twice in recent months. And Telstra know it's a big systemic and technical improve for them, and they pledged to us to allocate those resources to it. Telstra also said to us, or the NBN representative also said to us, that they would look to send over a technician to King Island, if they haven't already, sometime soon, with a view to realigning dishes on roofs. Whilst maybe no dishes were blown off roofs in the gale force winds that we had, a lot of them would have been blown out of alignment, and if they do, they lose performance, so they may as well be blown off. It was our encouragement that NBN agreed to send over a technician to make sure that those around the island that have lost performance, of internet speeds or whatever else, and know that something's out of kilter, that technician will look to realign their dish for them and get it back to where it should be. So that's an important consideration for us. As said, if your dish was strong enough to hold onto your roof, and I was worried about my own dish on a couple of nights, it may still have been blown out of alignment and need to be retuned. So that's just an important consideration. And they said they were going to put an ad in our local paper as well to that effect. So we'll just keep an eye that happens. That's just an important bit of information that people out there need to be aware of. And most of us, if not all of us, have an internet dish of some sort on our roofs and need it. Councillor Cook.
Yeah, regards this high pathogenic avian influenza, it says in the last dot point there that it's potentially dangerous to dairy cattle. Is this dairy cattle specific, or are beef cattle prone to it also? Because there's a hell of a lot of beef cattle and not many dairy cattle on the island.
Yeah. Through to you, Marty.
They just said dairy cattle at the moment, so I guess it could be all cattle, because at the moment the virus hasn't hit Tasmania, but they're expecting not if, but when. So all cattle would be susceptible to it, I would suggest.
Okay, so are we putting out a warning to people? Yes.
Not at this stage, because they wanted us not to alarm the public, keep people alert but not alarmed. So at this stage, it was just a briefing for emergency services management personnel, but we're keeping an eye on it.
Okay.
Councillor Logan.
Yes, in regards to the drought and now the dairy, are we looking at setting up any social or psychological response team to look at that, into that space?
Yeah, on Friday, I was part of the inaugural King Island Response Team meeting. That's a group that's been stood up. It's in its infancy and it's still developing. The terms of reference hasn't yet been agreed to, but that has been stood up by the Premier and State Growth. We had our inaugural meeting last Friday to basically look over a draft terms of reference and to confirm the makeup of the group. And we had some ideas about that, which was, for the most part, agreed to by those around the table on Friday. And as soon as that terms of reference is ratified and agreed to by all parties, and a few other bits and pieces fall into place, we'll let you know. The King Island Response Team will be run on a monthly basis. It will continue to be chaired by the Premier personally. He will endeavour to make it here in person, but where he can't make it in person, he will Zoom in and still chair the meeting virtually. And if the Premier can't make it or can't Zoom in for whatever reason, Minister Felix Ellis will be his proxy and chair the response team meeting in his absence. We are planning on expanding the makeup of the group to include selected industry representatives from next month onwards, to be confirmed. But at the direction of the Premier, the group is going to be kept essentially no bigger than the numbers sitting around this table. So it was a limited and selected group, and importantly, it involves Saputo representatives, it involves union reps, as well as King Island reps, and a range of observers that will sit in also from the Department of State Growth, from the Premier and Cabinet Department, and others. So early days yet. And as I said, as soon as we've got a terms of reference that's been ratified and a confirmed makeup of the group and the direction we think the group will head and what its focus will be initially, then we'll back brief you and keep you informed. But at the moment, we're not quite there just yet.
So have they mentioned social and psychological recovery components within that group?
I believe there was that was one of the lines of effort. It was one of the lines of effort that was listed in the draft terms of reference, but we didn't go into any detail on that subject area. But yes, it's definitely an important focus for the future.
And what are the council's plans of engaging under that group with other organisations? Given that that group is a fairly select group, what are our plans to?
Just through the Mayor, the response team did talk about having some working groups that would report back to the response team or the response group. So I think they would fall certainly in terms of that.
And we will certainly look to encourage that where it can contribute value add, and where specific groups or subject matter expertise or industry expertise from King Island needs to be involved. But it's very, very early days yet, and it was a very quick meeting last week, and a quick inaugural meeting, and it was a little bit rushed as a result of that. And but there's still a bit of work to do. But yeah, subordinate working groups will fall out of that King Island response team where required, or to focus on a specific task or a specific assessment or risk analysis or something of that nature. It's a work in progress, and as soon as I can give you a credible update, not only on that but also other King Island area developments, I will. So watch this space. Any other questions related to this report? So, would somebody like to move that the Deputy GM's report for August 2024 be received and noted? Councillor Cook has moved. Councillor Bowden has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Over the page, item 15.5. The Grassy Community Trust Fund that was discussed at workshop last week. Myself and the Deputy Mayor are happy to remain continuity on this group. Are there any questions or discussion points related to this? Somebody like to move the motion then on page 67? Councillor Laidler. Somebody like to second? Councillor Bowden, a second. Thank you. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Over the page, item 15.6, the King Island Community Park car program. The chair recognises Shirley Stebbings behind me, the stalwart of our very successful and fantastic community car service. So Shirley, good to have you in here with us this afternoon. Recently workshopped on behalf of all King Islanders, and I know I'm certainly on behalf of the council, we commend the work that the King Island Community Car Service provides to the island. As we know, we don't have public transport, we don't have taxis, we don't have trains, we don't have light rail, we don't have any of that. The community car is all of those and more, and does a power of work around the island, looking after a whole range of sectors of our community, in particular the elderly who need transportation from time to time for their various requirements. And Shirley and her team of volunteers do a great job of looking after the community, and it's a valuable service that we know as a council is worthy of our investment. This, as discussed at the workshop last Tuesday, and for the benefit of those listening and for Shirley as well here with us today, the council is determined to continue to support this fantastic service, to give it the certainty it needs and it deserves moving forward. The current car is in pretty good shape, in good condition, and has reasonable mileage on the clock. We think we'll get another 2 years out of the current car before it will need to be replaced. So really what we're doing at the moment is firming up our backing and support for the community car group, anticipating that in 2 years' time we'll then need to move forward and replace that car with the information that's listed there and we've discussed in our recent workshop. GM, anything else to add?
No, I think that's good.
Councillor Allen?
Yeah, I've got a question. Is the community car organisation happy with the way we're going with this and moving forward with these recommendations?
Well, through the Mayor, as the report indicates, the community car had a meeting with the Mayor and myself, and we went through some of the issues that they were facing. And as the Mayor said, it's an issue of continuity and certainty for that group. So I think my understanding is, yes, they are. This is what they wanted and requested, and we said that we would put it to council. So here we are.
And this will give the continuity.
That's correct.
The community car group have remarkably raised already a tidy sum with a view to ultimately pay for the next vehicle, whatever that vehicle configuration or whatever that vehicle type will be in a few years' time. So that's been fantastic fundraising performance by them to have that money in the bank, so to speak. Obviously, the King Island Council, we will again commit ourselves to register the car, insure the car, fuel the car, and support all those aspects. And there are other things we do, don't we? Just remind me.
I think that we service, we look after the car.
Yeah. So certainly backing up the service and providing the fuel that they need, insurance, vehicle registration, etc. So keeping the car on the road, so to speak. And the community car group provide the volunteers to drive it day in, day out to keep the car on the road and provide their service. So that's our partnership arrangement that's worked well so far, thanks to, in particular, to the dedicated volunteers from the car group and ourselves as a council, seeing the value in that investment. So that's the partnership that's worked to date. That's the partnership that we propose continues, with a particular focus on, in about 2 years' time, when we anticipate changeover of that car, will necessitate updating our arrangements and locking it in place for another 5 years or so, whatever we think the life type of that new vehicle will be. The community car are going to consider what they think the next vehicle might be, if they want to replace the current station wagon for another station wagon, or if they think they might have a small minivan or bus, or maybe a car that lifts wheelchair passengers in the back, like some of those ones do with the hydraulic ramp, etc. They're going to consider those options in the year ahead and confirm what they think the best replacement for the current station wagon will be, and then go forward from there. So they're having a look at that as well.
So, Mr Mayor, I'll move it and commend the community group for what they do in the community.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor has moved. Councillor Layla, you were seconding? Yep. Excellent. Right, all those in favour? Carried unanimously. Over the page, item 15.7 is the additional CCTV camera that has been freed up from not being deployed into our Main Street area, skate park area. And they are able to relocate that camera to cover our long-term car park at the airport, something that we wanted to happen. So that's a good outcome. Councillor Allen?
Yeah, I just got a question, and I know I could have asked this at a workshop, but it didn't dawn on me at that time. With the original decisions we made regarding CCTV cameras, and they were made in the previous meeting, it went through quite a robust debate as well as a robust process with it, where this one has gone through quite a bit different process. So it seems to sort of circumvent the process that we originally adopted. I'm just interested on why that has happened, or why that needed to happen.
Well, through the Mayor, as my report, albeit briefly, says, there was a lot of discussion at the last council meeting when CCTV was debated for some time, and there was a general conversation about it would be good to have it at the long-term car park. So because we'd already gone to the community and the airport cameras were generally supportive by the community and by this council, then it seemed that it would be, if we had a spare camera, that this would be the place to put it, because it had been discussed with the community, albeit not that particular location. And certainly there was a view expressed by the councillors that, a number of councillors, that this would be a good outcome for the airport. So on that basis, that's why it's coming back to council.
It wasn't a matter of timelines and meeting deadlines?
Oh, you mean in terms of this? Yes,
turning this decision, what was it? Did it needed to be a fast track decision?
It did, indeed.
Process?
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we would have lost the camera.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah, my next little bit is nitpicking, and I do apologise for it. I just draw quite a firm distinction between general impressions and an actual decision of council. Where I've sat in workshops where we've had a bit of a talk fest, and there's a general impression, and then suddenly that becomes a decision. In my mind, I just see council working a little bit differently than that.
Well, through the Mayor, it was not in a workshop; it was in the council meeting.
Yeah, but there's still a distinction between talk fest and decision, in
Absolutely.
my mind.
But in this case, it would have been a lost the camera. That was the choice that we had.
I do understand.
Okay.
And also the technical challenge of covering the airport complex, which is a large area to cover. not only forward looking over the apron out to the runway, but also behind it, behind the terminal itself where the hire car pickup area is, and then around the corner and over the other side and kind of over the hill to where the long-term park is. Obviously it takes a few complementary cameras to be able to cover all those areas, and so this was an opportunity to be able to cover what would otherwise be a blind spot, the long-term car park that we couldn't cover with the single setup. Any other questions then or discussions? Somebody like to move that recommendation on page 70? Councillor Cook has moved. I have a seconder. Deputy Mayor seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Item 15.8, the policy reviews of those two policies that are attached. Updated and revised policies are attached pages 73 to 86. Policies for community assistance grants and also related parties disclosure policy. Any further discussion or issues relating to those policy revisions?
Yeah, I just got a question, and I'm not proposing any change at all, just for my understanding. It relates to page 77, and it's a paragraph in the middle that talks about council reserving the right to consider exceptions based on their merit of benefit to the municipality of King Island. The sentence I'm sort of focusing on here is the next one, which is, any exception will be subject to the express approval of the General Manager in consultation with Council. So General Manager makes a decision, consults the Council. But then at the last page, so if you flip over page 79, it says the Council is the authority for the final approval or refusal. So does the latter override the former?
Ms Martin might like to shed some... My experience in this, or what I understand happens, is that in a case, this might be not your question, but in a case where this has happened, where there's been an urgency to have a particular allocation, that's been put through the General Manager and the Mayor, and then retrospectively that then goes to Council for ratification, and that has happened since I've been here. I can't recall the exact time, but so that's what I understand that to mean. That's correct, and that's been a standard process since the last policy.
I don't understand. So basically, there's the list of limitations, and this clause at the end of that section is giving the right to give exceptions to those limitations. So it means, there might be an organisation that doesn't meet all those limitations, and this clause is giving the General Manager the right to grant exception to limitations. So I'm looking at section 2.2.
Can we think of a recent example that might better illustrate where we've done that? Yeah, I think is there a recent example where we've done that? There may well have been something.
Just from my recollection, when the SMT were reviewing this policy, my understanding of that paragraph was that this gave the General Manager the authority to provide an application that didn't meet those limitations to Council for their consideration in whether or not to approve funding. So it's not, that was my reading. It wasn't that the General Manager can approve funding to somebody. It was that the General Manager could look at an application that maybe is from a subcommittee of Council, for example, and provide it to councillors for them to consider as part of their decision.
Thank you, I understand now.
That was my recollection from the SMT. Sorry.
Thank you.
I think also we do get late submissions where worthy causes submit a late application which has missed the previous council meeting for approval but needs to be decided upon before the next council meeting. And often we might approve it under delegation.
Yeah, and that certainly happened.
And then seek retrospective approval at the following council meeting. We do that very rarely. But sometimes for a worthy cause, or to get a critical event or activity or something off the ground that really needs our help and assistance, we might go out on a limb and do that. But that's maybe another area where I'm thinking that they could come.
I do understand, and that's covered off in a separate section. This one relates just purely to the limitations, and I do understand now that's there. So the application can be furthered, be sent through to councils for their consideration, and it doesn't simply get fall at the first hurdle. All right, thank you.
Any further questions then or discussions relating to these revised policies? No more for no more. Would somebody like to move, therefore, the recommendations on page 72? Councillor Layla has moved. Do I have a seconder? A seconder? Councillor Cook has seconded. All right, all those in favour? Carried unanimously. Across to page 87, which is closed council. Would somebody like to move that we adjourn to closed council to transact the following? Councillor Cook has moved. Do I have a seconder? Deputy Mayor has seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. The ordinary meeting is adjourned. I thank the public for attending. We'll take a quick break and then resume. Thank you.